Well, it is finally time for me to sit down and do my review for the album Bad Cameo by James Blake and Lil Yachty. Taking me a little longer to get here than I wanted. I was gone all of last week for 4th of July. Went to Utah, visited my dad, brought my son. We did some dirt biking. It was a great time. It was really, really a great time. But disruptive to my channel, way of life, of course. And I found as I was setting up here, getting ready to talk about this album, the first thing that went through my mind was how poorly I did my review on Heartstone Psycho by Don Toliver, which is an album that I liked, but in my review, I did a poor job of explaining why I liked it so much. And it makes me nervous going into this one because Bad Cameo, to me, I mean, I like Bad Cameo more, no disrespect to Mr. Toliver there, but the theme that exists within this album, I think is very special, and it's touched me quite a bit, especially having a little bit more time to listen to it since I was gone, and then sitting down with it again yesterday and today, really like listening. I actually went back and opened up some lyrics again, which is something I don't do very often, and to me, it's a very special album. And I have a note I wrote down. I just want to clarify now the things I'm going to talk about are. And really, this is how all my videos are this way, right? Where it's really my experience with the album. But I wanted to be especially clear with that on this because I don't want to come in and tell others, this is what the album is about. Because what I think makes Bad Cameo so special is it does have a theme, but that theme isn't set in concrete. It moves around. It's very fluid. And so I feel like this is one of those albums where it's beautiful to listen to and it's wonderful to experience. And the sound of the album is the kind of sound that pulls you in, kind of wraps you up like a blanket. And it lets you explore the album on your own terms. I mean, clearly, Lil Yachty and James Blake are both saying things that are pretty poignant, in my opinion. Sometimes pretty sad, sometimes a little heartbreaking. Sometimes powerful, sometimes motivating and reaffirming type of thing. But my experience, basically, I just don't want to tell other people what to think about the album. Whatever your experience is, please keep that, because I think this album, it does that in a special way, and this doesn't happen very often. Really, that's why I'm harping on this so much. This kind of music doesn't come along very often. You could probably imagine I love this album. I love it. I really enjoyed it on that first listen. I really enjoy it for what it is. I really enjoy the fact that these two guys got together and worked together and made this, because I feel like this is the kind of album that nobody ever asked for, but we all want in a way. Not all of us want this. I mean, some people just want bangers and some people want this, whatever. But this is kind of that special mix of music where you've got two artists just bringing something, and when they merge together, it makes some magic. So, Bad Cameo. Here is my take on Bad Cameo, the overall theme. The idea being a bad cameo in your own life. In your own life. And I mean, for those of you, I'm assuming we all know what a cameo is, like in a movie or a show where there's this very prominent, well-known person, and oh my God, what a surprise, they're here. And then they're there for a very, very brief moment of time, and then they're gone. And think about that idea in your own life as you with other people. That's really the impression I got from this album, of especially with the opening track. So what I did, I was gonna like write down all these lyrics and stuff, and it's one of those things where if I start, then I get carried away, and I'm not gonna try and create some sort of dissect podcast. I'm just not going to. So I forced myself to just pick a line. And even then, as I was going through it, I realized, look, my idea is kind of my own idea. This isn't necessarily specific to how the album is what the album is trying to say. I think with these two guys being musicians and being artists and being known and being in the public eye, traveling for tours and doing all these different things, their version of a bad cameo is going to be different from ours. But I think there's a lot of relatability that exists here. One of the things I thought about like right away, man, was 5, 6, 7 years ago for me when I was working night shift, and it was just hard, man. And it's one of those things where I didn't realize how hard it was until I got off of night shift. Because at that time, my son was 5, 6-ish. So imagine my wife was at home taking care of him while I'm sleeping during the day, but they have to be quiet. But they're in their own home, but they have to be quiet because they don't want to wake up Papa because he's got to get up and go to work tonight, and he's going to be cranky and he's going to be tired. And so I can attach to this idea of a bad cameo where, especially with the opening track, Save the Savior, I think it's so important that it starts that way, with Save the Savior. Because what's being said there is, these guys are putting all this work in, and for what? For everybody. They're trying to do it for themselves. Lil Yachty's talking about buying his house for his mom. Like, putting in the work to try and make things better, help improve the lives of others, and so on. But sometimes that comes with a cost that we don't even realize. And then with these two guys specifically in their lives, I'm sure it's even more difficult for them to find the time to spend with family, friends, loved ones, whatever. But even in our own lives, we all get that aspect. We can feel that, and then too, you get this aspect of, here's what you're trying to do to do what you feel you need to do, what should be done to help others. But then you also have in this weird layer of everybody else that's in your life who maybe wants to see you more often, or maybe thinks you should be doing it this way, you should not be doing it that way. It spills in. And I'm already getting into the rambling. Like with my Hearthstone Psycho review, it was basically me rambling for 10 minutes and not really saying anything. So I'm trying to stay focused. The problem is I get so excited. And then I have 5 ideas that spawn off at once. And then I try and kind of touch on all of them. But instead of executing a full throttle, I don't say anything. Anyway. And then I started thinking too about just bad cameos, and I figured something that just came into my mind, so I'll share it, even though it's personal. It's not a huge deal, but I remember being in the 6th grade, and when my parents got divorced, it was when I was in the 5th grade. So that summer, I was done with school, and my dad packed up all our shit, and we just left. And so we moved back to California, and we were living in this single-wide trailer up in the foothills in the desert, just outside of Lancaster, California. There's this little town called Acton. And my dad had to get a job, obviously, and he had a buddy out there, and he started working on water wells. Well, the jobs of water wells would sometimes be very far away, and sometimes he'd be gone for a week or two. And so I take this idea of bad cameo, especially when you're trying to do what you need to do to either support the people you care about or reach a goal or just whatever it is that we're all striving for, we're all struggling with. We're all trying to climb these mountains in our lives. And in doing so, you're removed often from the people you're actually trying to provide for. But then when you come back, even though you're off doing these things to try and make it better, you feel like this bad cameo, And I can't imagine. I cannot. Well, I kind of can. I guess I just did. I talked about my dad, who was a single parent at the time. But these single parents who are working, 2 jobs, trying to take care of their kids, and maybe they got a couple kids, and one of them's a little older. So, hey, you got to help out because I can't do this on my own. And as a parent, seeing that kid struggle with that. I'm supposed to be a kid and I need you here for me, but now you're telling me I got to be there for that. And it's just fuck, man. So I really do love the whole concept that wraps up around this album. I love how delicate the sound is, both in kind of the front half being like the struggle of that. There's some sorrow, there's some remorse, there's some regret. I told myself one line a song. So in Gray, I picked out James Blake saying, if everyone behaved just like me, we'd all be lonely. And I don't know what that means to him specifically, but I think us as individuals hearing that line, we can go, fuck, man. Yeah. Because it's easy to get wrapped up in whatever it is where we kind of want to shut down. We want to isolate. We want to remove. We don't want to reach out. We don't want to take a chance. We don't want to say the thing we feel like we should. And so what happens? We all end up our own little islands, So that line stood out to me. I like how sometimes I bleed. Sometimes I want to say stood. Anyway. I hear myself talking and then I go, oh, I'm doing it all wrong. Midnight. Midnight is a cool song. It's feels very metaphorical, but I love the line, "You were the only one who saw me." The only one who saw me. And I think that probably lands in the realm more of somebody who's in the spotlight, a little bit more well-known, famous, because it's easy for fans to see someone and go, oh my God, there's that person. Right. But then that person knows you don't know anything about me. You don't know who I am. You don't know my concerns or my fears or whatever. So to meet a person who actually does know who you are, that's got to be very special for that type of person who has fans and all that kind of stuff. Woo's a good track too, man. If you love me, let me know. They both say those lines in their verses. If you love me, let me know. Again, however they mean that for them, and that's their specific lives, but almost going back to the single parent thing and the kids, it's not even especially related to kids, but just the idea of putting in the effort to try and take care of someone or several people, putting in the effort to make sure that this and that and all that can happen. But in that effort being gone a lot, and then maybe resentment builds, or maybe the person doesn't care about the things, they just want to be about you. There's this whole cycle, right? And so sometimes you just want to know, hey, do you actually, is this working? What am I doing? Does this make sense? Do you care about this? Or am I just making it worse, right? I think for them, it's obviously more of a relationship thing, but that line stuck out to me. Stood out. Again, I said stuck out. Stood out to me. If you love me, let me know. And I think really it just strikes me as a great basis for communication, for talking to each other. Is this working? Does this make sense? If you love me, let me know. Is this all in vain? Bad Cameo, beautiful song. That might be my favorite. I don't know. I've got a big love for ambient, and the way that track starts out is incredible. Although I love Transport Me as well, and Missing Man, and Save the Savior, and all of the other ones, right? But in Bad Cameo, I'm tired of the fire. That one really hits, especially in that section of the album. You're halfway through, kind of been going through a lot. It feels pretty emotional. It feels very just reflective on an emotional level. All these different things that are going on. And I think it's important to admit to ourselves, I'm tired. This is hard. Somebody save the Savior. Oh, I forgot to say, I put a note in here too. It reminded me of Kendrick. Ain't nobody praying for me. That was another thing that popped in my head with that track. But yeah, I'm tired, man. People get tired. I have so much admiration and respect for these parents, these single parents, or even a set of parents that's working so hard to try and provide for their kids, man. I have it easy. I have it so easy. I'm very, very, very lucky. And so if those any of you who are out there that are just fucking giving it your all, man, I feel like that line, it just screams out. I'm tired of the fire. And then you roll into Missing Man, which is another beautiful song, and there's a great line in there, you just need to reset. And here is what I really enjoy about the album, because it turns a bit. You just need to reset. And then it drops into Twice, and I feel like on Twice, I misunderstood the meaning of this track on my reaction listen. At first I said it sounds a little anxious, and the idea of, how's it go? You can count on me twice. Like, oh, I screw up so often, you have to give me more chances. I don't think that's the case. I think now after listening to it more often, I think Missing Man and You Just Need to Reset, the reset happens. And then you roll into Twice, and it's basically the idea of, I took my break. I did reset. Now I am refocused. I have my determination back. I've got my energy again. You can count on me. You can count on me again and again and again. You can count on me. And I like that because I feel like it turns the album right there after Missing Man. And it puts, not like the album is negative, but it's very open and vulnerable. And that track puts some strength into it. And then Transport Me is great because it's got, I think it's got the hardest beat. It's got a great fucking beat. And Yachty's got that verse where he just goes on a tear. And why I think that verse is so special is because it feels like he's owning the whole situation. You know, something about struggling and flaws and all that kind of stuff, making mistakes. You can't really fix anything about it until you own it. And I feel like I worry that sometimes people mistake the idea of owning a flaw versus this is my flaw and I can never ever change it, and so I'll be an asshole or I'll be whatever. No. Those are two different things. You need to, in order to fix anything in yourself, you have to first acknowledge it's there. And sometimes that's the harder part. And having flaws is not a bad thing. It's not a problem because we all have flaws. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. And so I just feel like with that verse, when Yachty goes on that tear and that beat is just bumping, it's this is who I am. I've reset. You can now rely on me again and again and again. I have my strength back. But in that, I've also taken the time to acknowledge not everything is perfect. I am not perfect. This is how it is. That doesn't mean everything is set in stone. Of course, you can try and improve things and better yourself in certain ways. But at the same time, this is how it is. And I think that's a great thing to acknowledge in life. Because sometimes life just sucks, and sometimes we don't want to admit that what is happening, and it's been happening, and it's going to keep happening because it's just not a fun thing to realize, not a fun thing to engage with. But Transport Me, man, when I listen to that song, I just feel like, yeah, okay. You just keep going. It's an energizing song for me. And then the last two are beautiful because Runaway from the Rabbit and Red Carpet, to me, that feels specific to them. The idea, run away from the rabbit, run away from Wonderland, Alice in Wonderland, follow the white rabbit. So you don't follow the white rabbit, you don't tumble into Wonderland. I feel like that is specific to them in pursuing music that they care about, pursuing music that they find interesting and engaging, which this album absolutely is. And then Red Carpet I love. I never want to walk it. As long as I'm enough for you, that's enough for me. So it's, you almost go full circle by the time you get back to the end of the album there. Because if you go back into the beginning, now you're Save the Savior, and it does create a bit of a loop, I suppose, in terms of like an emotional ride. But at the same time, I feel like at the end of the album, the goal is now in focus. And that's another thing that's easy to struggle with too. Sometimes we're trying to make more money. Sometimes we're trying to get in shape. Sometimes we're trying to obtain this or do that or go here or whatever. And sometimes it's, you get so many things in mind of what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go, you kind of forget, what the hell? What was I trying to do again? Or sometimes it's even worse. You forget that you've achieved this goal, then that goal, then that goal, but we just keep moving the goalposts. It's almost like instead of realizing we've achieved something, it's a checkbox, and now we got to keep going down the list. But that's not true. That's not true. We should strive for goals, and then when we get to them, realize, oh my God, I'm here, and then take it all in. Take it all in. And I think with those last two songs, Run Away from the Rabbit and Red Carpet, especially as long as I'm enough for you, that's enough for me. At some point in time, you have to realize you can't have everything. You can't have everything. It's easy to look around and be tempted, and not that, if you see anything, you want it and you have to have it and you're dissatisfied until you have all these things. But it's also easy to forget that, okay, that shiny new car, that doesn't necessarily make my life better or happier or whatever. Bigger house, okay, but do I even need a bigger house? I'm going to go to school again. Well, what are you going to do with it? We don't need to chase the things we don't need, as obvious as it sounds. So I love Red Carpet because I feel like it's this healthy version of Save the Savior, especially in the lyrical concepts inside Save the Savior. I'm doing all this shit. I'm doing it for all these people. But in doing so, I feel like kind of a bad person because I'm not there for them. And now Red Carpet, I am there. and you only really do just want me. And so I don't need to worry about chasing all these things to try and make you happier when me being with you is what makes you happier. It's important to understand, you know, that concept is so true so often, and I feel like it's easy to blow over as people, as in relationships. Anyway. Oh, good. 20 minutes of rambling this time instead of 10. So I'll break my record there for most rambling album review. Hearthstone Psycho had it first. I don't know. I think I did a little bit better on that one. I'm not going to edit. I don't want to edit. I really like just trying to do this in an open, raw form. No clips, no edits. I don't know. Bad Cameo, it's just brilliant. It really is brilliant. And I feel like it kind of makes me a little sad. I feel like this album will be overlooked because this album is one of those albums where you have to pay attention to it. You can put it on and listen to it and it's nice and all, but if you don't soak in it, it really won't get there. This isn't something that you throw on just to kind of like nod to and then go do something else. And like, no, man. Like, if you've listened to this album and you've liked it, but it hasn't really like hit you, try and find a time where not even just the album, but pick a song that you like, one or two, because they're all about 5 minutes, 4 minutes, and take 5 minutes. Don't do anything else. Just put on those headphones or go somewhere where you can really hear the sound at its highest quality, whatever that means to you, and soak in it. Just listen to it. It's fucking phenomenal. And what's cool too is initially I was like, oh man, I'm really impressed with the production, and I still am. But now that I've listened to it more, I almost feel like I can hear some of the simplicity that exists in the production too. It isn't like just full of stuff. No, it's very carefully crafted. So it's fantastic. Really fantastic. Okay, there you go. 22 minutes. Album review. I'm going to watch this. I'm going to post it anyway, but I'm going to watch it and see how much I need to laugh at myself for rambling. But I love it. I think it's an amazing album. I'm really glad I sat down with it. I need to check out more James Blake stuff. And I hope these guys work together again. I hope Lil Yachty especially. I mean, I don't know about James Blake, but I hope Lil Yachty, I really hope he keeps just doing this. Just making shit that he finds interesting, what he wants to do rather than what you're supposed to do. Because, man, we all win when artists do that. When they make the music they want to make, we win. It's fantastic. All right, y'all. Take care. I'll see you soon.